Hey, what's up? This is Eva Shaw, and you're tuned into We Love Hip Hop. Is that good?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I really, really appreciate you doing this with us today. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks for having me on a Sunday.
Yeah, and a nice relaxed Sunday afternoon. You're over in LA right now, so it's like early afternoon right now for y'all, right?
Yeah, it's four here, but it's so hot, like just unbelievably hot. But all good.
Yeah, we've been dealing with a crazy heat wave over here as well. And
Yeah.
just so I could just do a quick intro here of our show because I haven't done one of these one-on-ones in a while, right? Shout out, this is Six Views TO. This is our show where I usually get to do one-on-one interviews and get more in depth with our guest. Shout out to my co-hosts Gutsy Guts and Savy the Ghost. They did an iteration, or they started an iteration of the show called Six Views Uncut, where they ask guests a little bit more the edgy questions, you know what I mean? Like,
Shocking.
yeah, bedroom stuff.
Shocking.
But I want to
Okay.
get into like a biography with you and shout out to Drew York who actually put me on to you as well. Right?
Yeah, he's becoming a good friend of mine. So I met him not that long ago, but he's a good guy. For
Yeah,
sure.
shout out to him because he's connected me with you, and like I'm to be honest and completely transparent, I wasn't completely aware of what you were doing, and then when I looked
Yeah.
you up, I was like, holy shit, you got a lot going on.
If this shit even show Booker Banks. Should have been in tune already though. Stupid.
Well, I mean, for me, I think I've sort of been like, I started my career in New York. So I'm from Toronto, but I think a lot of the Toronto scene doesn't really know about me until recently. So I just started kind of like getting into the Toronto scene like more recently.
Yeah, like
So
you have
I
a
think,
track "Bop" with Dylan
yeah,
Ponders
yeah,
and Chris
yeah.
the Spirit.
Bitch, what's up? Yeah, you must be late. Yeah, I been this shit. This your bop. This
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. That one just came out like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
yeah, and Dylan Ponders is from
Yeah.
here, from Toronto.
Yeah. We actually recorded, we were together in his studio in Toronto for that. So Drew actually introduced us as well. So yeah. I mean I've just been trying to like connect with as many Toronto people as possible because I'm like, it's kind of stupid that I'm from the city and now there's so much cool stuff I mean, there's been cool stuff happening there for a while, but I feel like it was harder to kind of get on the international market. Like 10 years ago was harder. I mean, obviously like Cardinal and there's that whole like Northern Touch crew and everything.
Yes.
So like I'm obviously familiar with them as a kid, but I think for me, like just I felt like I couldn't really do as much in entertainment when I was in Toronto.
Right.
And I felt like once I moved to New York, it was like there's so much more opportunity. And now it's kind of like the other way around. Like people are kind of making it in Toronto, which is awesome. There's like a little cruise going on and cruise building and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I like that.
we got our own scene going on here, and you brought me into like a direction before we even get into your history, because
Yeah, sorry.
I know it's perfect. Like this is why I like doing these also, because we can go on tangents and we can do whatever, right? With that whole philosophy of going to the States to make it, right? That's an old school mentality that we used to have over here in Toronto and Canada, right? Where you have to go over there. So you've been making your way from like New York City from like what, 2005, I would say, around that time?
A little late. I've been there for 10 years now. So I think 2010.
Sorry, 2010. Yes, yeah,
2009 maybe. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
explain that struggle that artists have, like, while you're here and you're bubbling, you're still not getting enough recognition so that you can sustain yourself just from your art.
I mean, for me, like I've always been involved in music since I was a kid because my dad's he was a musician. He still is, but more for fun now. But I've always been interested in a lot of different things. So
Right.
from music production to acting to I did some modeling as well in Europe and New York. So when I moved to New York, it wasn't just a music thing.
Right.
Like I had this sort of idea that maybe wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be that I was going to do yet, to be like totally honest, because I was DJing when I moved there already.
Yes.
Like I knew how to DJ a little bit in Toronto, but I wasn't like, oh, I can make a living at this. Like that wasn't in my thought process when I moved to New York. So I wasn't like really trying to be an artist yet, I think, when I moved to New York. I just knew that if I wanted to be in anything entertainment wise, like I felt there was more opportunity there. And it's definitely more of a struggle, I think, living there because it's so cutthroat. There's so many artists. There's so like it's so expensive as well.
Yes.
So, you know, it was just like having no money, just trying to like basically hustle your way into any way you can. So I'm like doing small gigs here and there and just trying to like basically all cash stuff. Like, and I feel like it's not really a thing in Toronto as much as it is somewhere like New York.
Yeah.
So I don't have an experience in Toronto in terms of trying to be an artist and like finding it difficult, but I do have an experience with just even trying to model or act in Toronto and it being like just kind of more difficult. I felt like so many talented artists in Canada, they were only famous in Canada.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, people never heard of Canadian artists when I went to New York or, you know, Europe or anything. So
yeah,
I definitely think that was a thing. And now it's been changing the last few years. So
yeah,
it's good. Yeah.
And like DJ Bambi, right?
Oh, you know about that?
I'll be doing my research.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
That's like your old DJ name, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into like how you even started with the DJing. But how did you come up with the DJ Bambi name, first of all?
So I was in New York and I had a modeling agent there, and one of my model friends, her boyfriend, we were kind of all friends, and he was like, you look like Bambi, like all bewildered and like from Canada, and you're in the big city and like scared of everything. And I was like, I think I was very sort of, I don't want to say innocent, but a little naive when I moved there, because I don't know, Toronto, the experience in Toronto for me was so much different than my experience once I started traveling.
Right.
And I think I just was like, wow, this is so much going on here. Like the city's so crazy. And that's kind of, I guess I looked like Bambi. So he was like, you should be called DJ Bambi. And he's actually the one that got me into DJing because he knew I knew how to DJ. And he's like, why are you bothering with like just trying to be a model, a actress or whatever? Like, you know, use your talents sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, at the time I was like, it's just gonna be for fun, like whatever. I didn't think about the name too much. I'm just like, you know, whatever.
Well, from my research, I also see that you took some money from your modeling gigs, and that's how you got your first set of DJ equipment.
Yeah, exactly. So I always really didn't like modeling. It was something for me that I saw as like a way to make money and then be able to do something else. So like I went to school with it, and you know, I went to theater school in New York and just kind of tried to like make money from modeling and then buy what I needed to be able to, you know, my DJ equipment and my production equipment, and build my own little like studio in my like tiny apartment. Yeah, so my neighbors probably hated me, but
okay, that brings another question to mind, because you got into modeling and you went to school to a degree, right? But you didn't like it. So why go
with the modeling?
Yeah. Why go so far into it if it's something that you didn't like?
It's not that I hated it. I just progressively started disliking it more, I think. I think for me, it was just a money thing, really. I was like, I can either go and try to do like, I don't know, like I could be a waitress or something somewhere, like, you know, I mean, I had great grades and I could have gone to school for something else. Like, I mean, I was interested in everything from maybe being a doctor to, you know, I didn't really, the only thing for me that made sense was something in the arts, and I was always musical. So I just thought it was a way to help kind of fund my progression. And I also think because it helped me travel, I met so many people doing it. So I could see that there was a benefit to it, even though like the actual like deep, dark part of modeling is really horrible. And I think that started getting to me more and more. And I think I couldn't sort of like pretend like it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. You mind talking about some of those things? Because like a lot of girls who, like, I know we don't have the highest female demographics, but the ones that do tune in, you know, I feel like there's a lot of influences that come from the Instagram and different places that you know, drive women into the modeling world sometimes. But sometimes I feel that there needs to be warnings that they need to know before they get in there. So you think we can talk about some of those ugly things that happen in there?
I mean, if we're talking about like Instagram, to me is not even the same thing as modeling. You know, it's like that's kind of like you don't really get an idea of the industry from just being an Instagram model.
Yeah.
To me, something like that is like a way you can make some extra money. Maybe a brand pays you to post something. But I'm talking about like real like castings. You have a booking agency, like ad campaigns, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody has a different experience, but my experience is that a lot of models that I did meet were really intelligent, funny, like interesting women. And you're basically none of that is important. And it's sort of, I mean, it sounds like oh, poor me, listen to me, but like
no, these are important things.
Yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, you're like, oh wow, this looks nice. You're like on a beach. It looks like you're having fun. You're getting all this money.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, a lot of models aren't making a lot of money. And there's a lot of behind the scenes things going on, like agents kind of taking a lot of your pay. And when you're so young, like I started when I was 13, so
wow.
I think a lot of it you don't really understand. And aside from the business side of it, I think the most difficult thing is probably just the physical side of it, like the running around, not sleeping, the pressure to look, a certain way. And that's not even just being skinny. It's also like you have to look whatever it is that they're looking for. And a lot of times you don't really know what that is. So
right.
I've had, I always felt like I never fit into any category at the time. So like when I was modeling, you had to be very obviously one thing. So that was hard for me hearing like, oh, you're too like, some people would say I'm too unusual looking for a commercial, or I've heard like you look too exotic, or like we can't tell what your background is. So
wow.
we don't, you don't have our clients won't understand or won't connect to you.
Yeah.
So there's a feeling of like not fitting in and never being good enough for whatever it is that someone's looking for. A lot of criticism. They'll talk about anything in your body. Like you walk in and they're like, oh, look at that. Or,
like just right up in front of you type of thing.
Yeah. It's a mind fuck, basically. It's
That's
like
crazy.
And they don't care about how you feel. It's just really, I mean, that's the real modeling. I mean, you see supermodels and I'm sure everybody kisses their asses and everything, but when you're starting out and you're young, like there's a totally different way that you're treated.
Yeah.
It's interesting lifestyle, I guess.
No, that's intense to me when I take in like just the amount of pressure that, and just the amount of a thick skin that you have to have or develop when you're in that world, right? So do you think
exactly.
Do you think that helped you when you started transitioning into the music world? Because that also takes a thick skin, like people critiquing your art musically and stuff. I'm just about to lose my mind. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning for me, I started doing more like club type music, like instrumental dance music. So that was like the first kind of stuff that I signed. So, but when I did that, I wasn't really expecting to be like a producer or like a DJ professionally. So in the beginning, like any kind of rejection, I was kind of expecting in a way.
Okay.
But I think the more that something becomes your job and the more serious it is, then you're kind of like, you hear things that people say, and especially in different areas in music, you can get, just things based off what you look like, or being a female, not really having a lot of other female producers and DJs around.
True.
Doing that like festival DJ scene, and you're the only girl a lot of the time other than like the dancers. I think in that way it's kind of hard, and you can hear criticism for things that maybe like don't always make sense.
Right.
I guess somebody criticizes a song and they're like, oh, I just don't like that song. I'll be like, okay, whatever. But if they're going to criticize me for something I can't control, then it's a little more like hurtful, I think. I'm also really sensitive, so maybe I'm just a big baby. But
Well, you're like, I think, and if I could just remember back, because I didn't write it down. Actually, I think I might have did write it down. May of, you're born in May?
February.
So what sign is that?
Pisces.
You're a Pisces? I don't know
Yeah.
anything except my own sign. I'm a Cancer. I know we're supposed to be
Okay.
super emo. You know what I mean?
We're supposed to be good friends, actually, Cancer and Pisces,
Oh, yeah?
from what I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta dig a little bit deeper into my whole horoscope type vibes, right?
I know a little bit, but yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we're supposed to be floaty and like all over the place and artsy and emotional, which is basically me. So yeah.
Well, then you got a lot of the Pisces traits there down pat then.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Like, you're from Toronto, but I feel nobody's ever born in Toronto, right? So are you
No.
like from like east of Toronto, like that Peterborough area?
I'm from the east side, yeah, but more like Dawnlands, like east of Greektown. So like,
Oh,
yeah, it kind of. I mean, I kind of hung out like around like Girard area, like a little bit east of the East Chinatown kind of area. So yeah, that's like where I grew up, in that area.
near Degrassi High.
Is that where it is?
Yeah, that's
Oh
where-
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because there's Degrassi Street around there, all right?
Yeah. I mean, a little more east than that, but yeah, I know
So-
where that is. Yeah.
What was life
Drake
like
is.
for you growing up, like as a teenager around there, like high school life and stuff?
I mean, with high school, I was already modeling, so I was gone like all the time. I was already traveling. I was in Europe a lot. I think I didn't really have a lot of friends. Like I was involved in everything. I was on almost every sports team, student council related stuff. Like I was very active with. Anytime I could be on stage, I would be on stage, like
Right.
at my school. So I was always kind of out there, but without having close friendships. Like I didn't talk one-on-one a lot to people. So I think very shy, but also have this desire to like express myself a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's kind of the vibe of a lot of people a lot of kids in the area, because I think a lot of kids around there have like very different backgrounds. So everyone is kind of like a big melting pot of different backgrounds. So I feel like we fit together because we're all so different.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of Chinese people there, kids whose parents like had just moved to Toronto, so like almost didn't speak English. There's like such a mesh of different people in that area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I like about Toronto, though, is that it's such like a melting pot kind of thing. Like, you grow up seeing all different kinds of people, and even though maybe you don't directly relate to somebody, you like that's what makes it Toronto.
Yeah, you're actually able to have access to them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Yeah, and experience other people's cultures, and that's fine. Like,
Yeah, and like you mentioned that your dad is in the music industry, or who did
Yeah.
music, right? So
Yeah.
I missed that in my research. Who's your dad?
Well, he's not famous, but he's like he was a jazz musician. So he had a band. He played saxophone. So he was like a touring band, just kind of playing gigs around. He wasn't like him or something, but
Okay.
he's extremely talented. But yeah,
Yeah.
more like on the jazz side of it.
So is that part of your like young inspiration to get into music?
I think so. I mean, I always saw him like recording music and playing guitar and singing, and I'm sure that had something to do with it. And my mom also loved music always. She would always do like aerobics in the living room to like Stevie Wonder and Aretha Franklin, and that's like my first experience with music.
Yeah.
Neville Brothers. That's like the first stuff that I heard as like a little baby. And also my dad's like weird jazz stuff that, experimental. So I think I had like kind of a big mixture of influences musically for sure. But I saw him doing a lot of music, and it was probably big inspiration for me.
That's very interesting because I was looking through an interview earlier where you were mentioning that, like, your mom doing aerobics to the Neville Brothers and Stevie Wonder
really?
and stuff like that, right? It was like a little 5-minute interview on another platform. It was a really great piece of content, right? But it started making me think, okay, and maybe it's just my ignorance and stuff like that to stuff, and I like to learn. I'm like,
Yeah.
are you mixed with anything, or do you just have like white parents?
I mean, my parents are white, but I'm a little, they're like a little lighter than me, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really know fully my background, but like my brother, he has more like straight hair and he's like paler than me. I'm more like yellow kind of, I guess.
Well, no, the reason I ask that is because, like, your mom's working out to, and I know these guys are popular anyway at those times, but like Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, I was like, they got a lot of soul going on in that household right there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think my dad, like, he had said a couple times, because he's not, I mean, if you see him, especially at the time when he still had his hair color there, I think you wouldn't necessarily know what his background is either, maybe. He could be like Spanish or Italian maybe, or something like that. But he told me that he used to get a lot of crap when he would like go out and perform, because like he was the only lighter guy in the band.
Right.
And sometimes they would kind of be like, what are you doing here? Like, you know.
that's crazy.
But he's always loved that kind of music. And that's how my parents met, actually. My mom was watching him perform. She's out at the jazz bar or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think, especially being from Toronto and having so many cultures, I think that, you know, it's normal to like whatever you like.
Yeah.
You know? I had so many white friends that like only ate Chinese food and like only had Chinese friends, you know? And I just think, I never thought anything of it. I just thought everybody's mixed with something anyway. So,
It's interesting. I feel it's an interesting look into the way that our lineage works into how we listen to our music now, because a lot of people assume that, you know, white people only started getting into hip hop and like when it started getting popular in the early 2000s and it started getting super commercialized, and not realizing that a lot of people have been listening to all different types of music from a really long time. So your influences can come from listening to like a Stevie Wonder at home as a kid. You know what I mean? And you don't necessarily have to be a black person to have heard that. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. And I mean, I think that's kind of what music is. People taking ideas from each other and changing styles over time. You know, we do it with food as well. We do it with everything, like food and culture and music and art. Like, you have all these influences, and then you somewhere, even if it's not intentional, you're using things that you like and what you grew up with.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I always love dancing and I love rhythm, and that's all black music. So, you know, I don't even know what is white music, like opera, like.
I guess if you want to like from like the old school, you know, the first or you know, ancestral musics, I guess like the earliest form of quote unquote white music would be opera. But I really hate classifying any music as black or white, because like we all enjoy it, whether we're making it or consuming it. We're all enjoying it, you know what I mean? And you just proven it from like what your parents were listening to, right? Yeah. Now like it makes more sense when you I feel like when I read things or see things like your dream collab was doing something with RZA.
With who? Sorry?
With the RZA.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I said that somewhere?
You said that somewhere, that one of your dream collabs would be the RZA, right? So were you like heavily into Wu-Tang and stuff like that back in the days too? I
would say I was more of like a Tupac fan. So I actually, I don't remember how old I was probably like 8 or something. I did a whole school project on Tupac.
Sick.
And everyone else was doing like, I don't know, like some people did like Martin Luther King and stuff like that, but I was like Tupac. And I was like super into all the conspiracy stuff about him. Like, I don't know where that came from, to be honest. Like, I was obsessed with him, like his movies and stuff. Like, everything about him was super cool. I mean, yeah, he was dead already, but you know.
Yeah.
He's still, people still love him. So kind of, I think I even have like drawings and paintings of him and stuff.
So you were a real Pac fan then, like.
Yeah, I
the
really liked
core.
him a lot. I mean, for me, I didn't have like one person that I sort of like one artist. I think like TLC was definitely a group for me who was like I idolized. And Mariah Carey as well. I always wanted to be a singer, but I didn't have the voice, so.
You couldn't hit
I
that,
think,
that
like,
high note that she does.
I can actually sing pretty high, and I took singing and a lot of lessons and choral singing. I was a soprano in that.
Nice.
I tried it, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll like try a little bit. But
We got
not
auto-tune
anytime
now.
soon.
You could do anything.
I wish I could rap. Actually, that'd be great. But no, I write poetry, but it's not really my thing.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to start getting into some of your hip hop production as we continue our conversation. But I want to stay here for a second with the early music, right?
Yeah.
Back in like let's say when you were like 12 years old and we were still working with MP3 players and stuff like that, right? Or I think we might have been still using CD Walkmans at that point, no?
When was that? I mean, my brother's also older than me, and we didn't really have money to buy like the newer stuff, so we always had like older.
So you had like
we
the
always like the
cassette
last
deck?
ones.
Did you have the cassette
my
Walkman?
dad did. My dad, no, I didn't have that one. I had the CD. I did have the CDs though, for sure. But my brother had some tapes that I stole.
Okay, so good. What tapes were like, I have to steal this? And what CDs were you listening
A tape
to?
or CD?
Tapes, what tape or CD, doesn't matter, right? But
Okay.
This is like a must steal. And which one were you listening to where you're like, you listened to it so much that you fucked it up either, or you lost it and you had to go buy another one because it was that much of your favorite?
There was it was actually a funk CD. I think it's Pure Funk. It was a Much Music compilation, I think.
I remember that.
It's like brown cover. I'm pretty sure it was somebody with like an afro and like some bell bottoms, I think.
I remember that.
I like one. I need to see this now. But that had like,
Let me see if
I mean,
can
there was
pull
some
it up.
more commercial stuff on it. There was like Kool and the Gang and stuff on it. But there was also like, what was like that song I love so much. It's like, wait, every time I move, I lose. You know that song? Wait, what is that? I'm forgetting the name now.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up Google. You can see the share screen I have on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the first compilation that you mentioned?
I think it's Pure Funk
Pure Funk.
compilation CD. Yeah, that's it.
Let's see what the image is.
Yes, I was right. And you don't see the bell bottoms, but I'm pretty sure he's wearing bell bottoms.
That's great. Oh
Wow.
man,
That's awesome.
Taking you through a blast
I
of the
listened to
past.
that so many times.
And
And it's weird because it's not even like my like my dad didn't even really like the stuff. He thought it was too commercial. But I loved it. I've always kind of I like commercial stuff, I have to say. Like I also like some underground stuff, but I can appreciate some good commercial music as well.
Yeah. So was
I
that
was
a
just
buy?
talking-
Was that what you bought and lost and like burned to the ground, like burned to like listened to so much?
I don't think I bought it. I don't even know how it ended up anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really bought a CD until I was like, I don't know. I don't even remember the first thing I bought. I don't know if I actually bought a CD myself.
Right.
I think I was just like stuff in, around the house. But my memory is like so bad. So,
Okay, what about the stolen one from your
okay,
bro?
this is a different genre. My brother had a Weezer tape, the one with the blue background, and I was standing there. So like, I also really like Weezer, like the Sweater song and stuff. That stuff I really liked as well. There's a few rock type songs I liked as well. The Big Shiny Tunes, they had a couple good songs on there. Much
Music, Big Shiny Tunes.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. I I listen to the things that I used to like as a kid, and I'm like trying to figure out what it is I like about all these different types of music.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say mainly hip hop and funk is what I liked, and then there's occasional, other song or other thing that I just was obsessed with.
Yeah.
I mean, TLC, for example, like I like their songs, but I think I also liked them, like what they looked like and how they acted, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, their swag. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like how they're tomboyish and that kind of thing. Because I've been a tomboy my whole life, so I just maybe it doesn't look like it now. But yeah. I was actually just talking to Chris the Spirit the other day he asked me like, what are your favorite songs of all time?
Mm-hmm.
So I started listing everything, and I'm like, well, right now, like I love Drake and like Sway Lee and stuff, but I started writing things, and I was like, NERD is also like, that was a little bit later though, like Pharrell and stuff. I was just thinking like ASAP Ferg, but that was also later.
Yeah.
But I had all these like, I also really liked Nelly and that whole new age, like the new kind of hip hop style that came around.
Like
when was that? Like
early 2000s.
2000. Yeah, early 2000. I was into that as well, like the shake your tail feather and stuff like that. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
Did you watch the Tip Drill video on BET back in the days?
The which one?
Tip Drill video that he had on BET back in the days.
I didn't have BET. We didn't have like any of the like special channels. We had like 10 channels. It was like the news and I mean Much Music, but that was like it came with your like TV thing, right? Yeah.
So,
but I didn't have MTV, didn't have BET, like no comedy, whatever network, nothing.
Yeah. So let's go forward a little bit now, because from a young age you moved to New York City, right?
Yeah.
What was that first experience like when you first got there? Like, were you scared out of your mind? Like, obviously they named you Bambi for a reason. You know what I mean? Were you scared for real?
I traveled a lot already by then. Mm-hmm. So like, I mean, yeah, that was 10 years ago. So I was already traveling for a couple of years before that. Mm-hmm. Like during high school, I was kind of like going to Paris and Milan, London. And I actually went to New York a couple times already before, but that was more for like, just like a couple weeks or like a weekend or for a gig or something like that.
Right.
But I didn't remember being scared really. I remember being like inspired. And I remember the first time I landed in New York and driving down like the East Side River from the airport, and I was like, I need to live here. Like, this is so incredible. Yeah. And actually in school we had to do this thing where we had to plan, like, I think this is grade 6 or something like that. Mm-hmm. We had to plan what we wanted for our future, and I was like, I want to buy a house in New York. Already I was thinking like that's what I want. Yeah. I even looked it up, and I was like Googling it, and I remember reading this article about Harlem and how it was like cleaning up and it was going to be like the next best place to live. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I should buy it like now, and then by the time like I sell it, it's going to be, worth so much more. Like I was already thinking that way at like a really young age. So I never was really like a scared type of person. I'm like, I definitely keep to myself when I'm alone traveling, but yeah, I don't know. New York's not like, it's not as dangerous as people talk about, unless you're going to like some place in the Bronx that, but mostly Manhattan and most places in Brooklyn are totally like, almost Toronto now. Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that though, right?
Yeah.
And you started moving around, like you started doing a residency at, and let me make sure I get the name of this place right here. Hakkasan.
Yeah.
Right? That's where you met Calvin Harris. Right?
Yeah.
How did you get the residency over there first, before that meeting came to be?
I started my DJ career in New York, so I started playing more and more gigs there. And that's actually when I stopped modeling, because I was getting so busy just doing gigs, and I started making money like cash. And I mean, don't tell the tax people, but and I got a residency in Atlantic City, which the owners of that were opening Hakkasan. So they kind of saw how I kept bringing people back. So every time I DJ'd, people would want to come.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, do you want a residency in Vegas? Because, I mean, they paid me way less than every other DJ. And, you know, the same people were coming. So it was like, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer for them. Like, we can make money on the days that she performs and people like her. So, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I started. I was really lucky, though, to get that because most of the people that they brought in for Hakkasan were mainly, like, European big EDM DJs.
Okay.
Who, you know, making, like, hundreds of thousands a gig. So, like, a lot of money. So I was kind of like, okay, I guess, like, I'll come in there. And I actually had a lot of DJs kind of mad and jealous and stuff. And a few of them, like, messaged me and were like, how did you get this residency? Like, it's not fair. And I'm like, if people want to see you, like, that's what being an artist is. So it doesn't, if it's faster or slower, it's not, you know, it's always different depending on, you know, the situation. So I never, like, I get why you would feel like that if you've been working so hard to try to get something and then somebody else gets it that just kind of shows up. And I think that's how some people saw me, as like kind of just showing up out of nowhere. But I mean, I don't think they saw how much I worked for that, but their perspective. Everybody thinks that everyone just shows up out of nowhere and, like, you know, but it's hard work, and anybody that gets anywhere has been struggling for it.
Yeah,
I think.
You got to work behind the scenes to get into the spotlight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you got the residency over there at Hakkasan, and you're doing your thing, and then you meet up with Calvin Harris, and you you give him your music, right?
Yeah. So he messaged me on Twitter, and he was like, I don't know who you are. Like, I know all the other DJs. Like, how did you get here? And I was like, well, I'm playing, like, a little bit around the U.S. and in New York. And he was just like, do you have music? Because he's like, this is crazy, you know, like, this girl's just, like, showing up out of nowhere. So he wanted to know more. So I sent him a couple of songs, and one of them he signed to his label.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Really?
So break that down to me, because in hip hop, we don't usually sign to labels per song, but in the electronic music world, that happens. Like, you're signed, you know, for one record, and then you can go on to another record and sign to somebody else, because you've been signed to multiple labels. Like, you've been signed to like 5 different labels I've seen, but you're not signed to them.
I think at the time, this is like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something, 8, I don't know exactly, but at the time that was happening a lot more. But then like Spinning Records is one of the biggest indie dance labels. So they ended up being like, no, we're not going to sign singles anymore unless you like commit to us. So that's like kind of changed. And now like a lot of DJ producers are making their own labels and that sort of thing. But someone like Spinning, they have such a huge platform that like you put a song on there, and then like everybody, all these dance music fans are going to see you. So it's kind of like you give them all your royalties, but at the same time, you're like, you know, the idea is that you get more gigs, and so you don't make the money off the music, but you get more gigs and fans and stuff like that.
Interesting. See,
Yeah,
I never knew that that's how it worked with y'all scene. Like, that's really like a double-edged sword, because like you're looking at how much money that the single is selling when they put it on different compilations and stuff like that, but you're still making some money in another way. You don't think maybe you should be getting a percentage of that though?
I think that in EDM DJ world, it's like the DJ producer is sort of, I think it has traditionally been more of like a bigger artist than like a hip hop producer or like a pop producer.
Right.
It's sort of like you're the DJ, and then whoever the vocalist is like the feature or like the side thing. So that's kind of what it's been like for the last few years.
Yeah.
It's always been kind of weird to me, but the fact that most of those club songs are mainly instrumental, and it's not as much of a top line, then it wouldn't make sense to have them as the main kind of artists. So instead of singing, you're basically just DJing, and that's your way to perform your music. So I kind of when I started doing more hip hop, I noticed like some people didn't really get why I would be like the artist on the song as well.
Got that 80 racks, I'm a raw dog, bitch. Not throw that kitty cat. That ball off, make this money flip.
So because they're more used to just having, oh, this is my producer, you know. And sometimes you put some people are putting their name, like Dom Diaz. I noticed he has his name on some stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes.
People are doing it now. Murder beats and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's not a normal thing.
I think like someone like a Murder Beats, like he started DJing now because I think that they're kind of taking the influence from the EDM kind of culture and being like, you know, why don't we do this too? Because the fees for DJing are like, they were like really great for a long time. Obviously now with COVID, it's kind of different story. It kind of reached this like boom too, because there's some DJs that were just making like ridiculous amounts of money. But you answer your question, you do make money from those songs. So like my song Space Jungle, for example.
Huge.
I own 100% of the writing and production royalties.
Nice.
So yeah, because I didn't do it with anybody else. But when I signed to the label, they take like 80%. So, and then they have all their costs, and then so you're making the royalty money from Spotify, but you're not, the publishing side of it's a little bit harder to make that money from, and the it's a little dry, but
no, this like, I don't know, my audience, sometimes some of them might be, but to me as the industry insider guy, this is like important information, you know what I'm saying? Because while the people who watch our platform, a lot of them are artists, they need to know this type of stuff as they go and, you know, they navigate through the industry. Right? They need to know what to look out for. All right.
I actually noticed, and I was surprised how many, like, because now I'm working with so many more artists, like, and some smaller hip hop artists as well. Because I've worked with like big artists as well, like Ludacris and stuff like that. And
Lil Jon.
I've done remixes for, you know, Def Jam and like more corporate, like major label stuff. So I was kind of used to it being a certain way. And then when I started working with artists that don't have that experience yet, and then I have to like explain it to them, like certain things, how it works, it's confusing. And it took me a while to understand it, but it can be a little frustrating for me sometimes because I'm like, you know, they're coming from it a more like indie way. And now I am too, because I started my own label. So I have to kind of like find that balance of like, you know, how much time do I spend like explaining something to somebody? But I think it shows like it is important for people to do the research, because some people, like, there's been rappers that just like take beats, like you send them something and they just take it and use it, and you're like, it's not how it works. Like,
you never asked my permission to use that. You might have sold that to somebody else already.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think some people realize also how much time it takes to actually produce a song sometimes. I mean, depending on the song, but like I've also written top lines before, and sometimes I spend a day and I go write a song, but producing a record will be like, you know, months or, you know, weeks, hours. The time consumption is so, you know, so much compared to writing a top line. So I think sometimes people are just like, I've had a few guys like they send me a vocal or something and they're like, hey, do you have something already? Like a few hours later. And I'm like, dude, like give me some time.
And explain for me, even, what's the top line?
Oh, sorry. A top line is the vocal basically. It's like it can be a singing, or it could be a rap or whatever. The vocal part of it. Yeah.
So you're just talking about like the whole written 16 or the vocal that might be on there, or you're just talking about like a ghost idea, like maybe just like the mumble of the flow of what it might be.
I mean, that would be like the demo of the top line, I guess. So like with Bop, for example, like Dylan and Chris wrote the top line.
We don't throw no shade, pull up with them sticks. Oh yeah, I don't know a nigga like me. Well, no nigga out.
Because they're doing that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you would call like technically like rap top line, maybe not, but That's just what I call it because I'm used to like singers and stuff too. Okay. I don't think that you know what I mean.
Well, let me ask you this when it comes to the transition that you've been making, because you've always been into hip hop, but you've been deep into the EDM scene. You've had songs like Space Jam and stuff like that that are in the millions, right? Then you start getting into the hip hop and making hip hop beats.
I don't want no talk, I don't want no lip. That little big old strip, that little big old strip.
What do you think is easier, making an EDM style beat or a hip hop beat?
Well, I mean, I think that the fact that I had that support from big EDM DJs and the big labels, that sort of like, and because it was so hot right then at that moment, like I kind of got in like right at that time where people were going crazy over EDM DJs and, you know, club music.
Right.
Club music, I mean, dance club music. I think that sort of like gave me an unrealistic expectation in terms of doing hip hop. One reason being that I started my own label. So everything I've released so far almost has been on my own label.
Right.
So now I'm learning that side of things. Like you can have a great song, but the fact is if you don't have money to promote it and connections and all that kind of thing, you know, nobody's going to hear it. Yeah. Even like a few million people hearing your song, the most of the population hasn't heard it yet.
Yeah.
So like you really have to get like a lot of listeners to be able to make a dent in terms of like the world stage, you know, or even Canada or the US. Yeah. So I think that it's been a struggle, I think, because I'm again, my expectations, like when I first started releasing hip hop records and I'm like, yeah, people heard it and they hear them and it's on some radio stations and stuff. But I'm like, how do I get it? Like the level that my dance stuff was.
Yeah. You know? Yeah.
It's just, I think it also takes longer to make songs happen now because I'm dealing with so many different artists. Like I'm not going to rap, so I can't just rap and do my own production and then release it. Like I have to make sure that they like it and that they, you know, agree to everything and that, you know, this release schedule is on point and all that kind of stuff. So it's just more stuff. Well, definitely.
It's definitely a transition, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
And even there's something I read in an article that said you're renowned for your ability to entertain large crowds and produce your own music. You know what I mean?
There you go. Right? Entertain. I mean, I've performed in front of like, I don't know. I think the most in one stage is like 80,000 at once.
So my question.
So I
have a question on that. Do you get nerves?
Oh yeah. But you asked me about high school earlier, and I think that I'm the same now as I was then in terms of something about being on stage is not as scary to me. It's more like human interaction. Like this, I'm more nervous.
Really?
Because it's like it's like one-on-one, you know. And for me, I've always been somebody who always like doesn't really know what to say usually, like one-on-one, or even in front of the classroom or something. If like a teacher would talk to me directly, I would be like, and then like my brain just blank out.
You draw a blank, yeah.
But in terms of performing, I've always gotten really nervous beforehand, but then like once I'm there, like I'm just like another person. It's just it transforms.
I've seen you like on footage, like, you know, rocking out in front of thousands of people, right? You ever have a technical difficulty where you were like, oh my God. Tell me,
you know, it's crazy. I had a dream last night that happened to me, literally last night. Like this DJ mix up things when there's some technical difficulty and you're just like, because, you know, you can forget a word as like a singer or a rapper or something or go off key, but then you just keep going and it's fine.
Right.
But, you know, if you're, you know, something's wrong with, I've had so many, like I think every DJ has. One of my first experiences was, I was using Serato when I first started DJing. So that's like on your laptop.
Yeah.
And then I had like a controller CD in the CDJ, which is like the turntable. And I didn't realize, but the controller CD was like all scratched up. And you have to go through them all the time because they just scratch and that's how it is. But I was like going on after Hardwell, who's like a huge EDM DJ in Vegas. And I mean, he was at the time also like #1 DJ, like crazy. And I was in the middle of mixing out his last song and bringing mine in, and mine started skipping, and it sounded like I just did a like complete like train wreck, basically.
Oh, man.
And nobody knew me at the time, so they're like already like, oh, who's this girl who probably sucks at DJing? That's like the thing that people say, oh, she probably doesn't know how to DJ because she's a girl. Like, you know, I've heard that stuff so many times. Or like, oh, she probably like sucked his dick or something to get this gig or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, why is that the thing? Like, I don't.
It's like dumb shit. Like, oh, she's probably the promoter's girlfriend. You ever heard?
Yeah.
You got? I
haven't got that one. I haven't, but
No?
I'm sure people have.
Shit, I'm probably more creative than people. I used to be a rapper.
It's normally for me. I think the one that I used to get. I don't really get it anymore because I think people have seen by now that I know how to DJ.
And you have a reputation.
Yeah, but it's also like, it's not as hard as it used to be to DJ. Like, you can, especially with EDM, like you can make. I even do it now. Like make mashups, pre-mashup stuff before I perform, just because like it's just less stuff to think about if you're performing. Like for me, the actual part about DJing is not like, oh, I just can't wait to mix these records together. It's more the idea of choosing the songs and being in front of people and being like, this is what I think that you would like to hear. Like and performing my own songs. Like that's what I like about DJing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that experience was really stressful. That's why I switched to USB. So I don't use a laptop. I just use USBs now because nothing can happen, basically. But they do change the CDJs now. They do like firmware updates. They have new, new products that come out. And sometimes you're not familiar with whatever it is. And if a venue just switches on you, then you're like, oh, shit. Like, especially at night. And maybe you had like a drink or something and you're like, wait, this doesn't look like it did yesterday.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's almost like second nature when I DJ. Like, I don't really look as much anymore. I can almost do it without headphones on now.
Crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, occasionally, but I used to have to keep them on like the whole time. So I think if you're so used to it and then something's different all of a sudden, you might be like, and then mess up. Or, I mean, everybody's messed up. I've seen Diplo do like the worst mixes or like something really off key.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know the song that you're playing that well. So you think like that you got another bar still, and then, you know, you don't loop it, and then you have like two vocals on top of each other, and you're like, you have to like turn one out quickly.
Yeah,
but there's things like that happen. But I think the worst time that I had was, do you know David Guetta?
Yes.
Yeah. So he has this thing called Fuck Me I'm Famous, which is a show that he puts on. It started in Ibiza. He did it in Vegas for a while. So he had me headlining one time, and I had actually taken the place of another DJ, and he was not really happy about it because now he was opening for me instead of headlining. Yeah. And I was using Serato at the time, and right before I went on, he like unplugged all of the wires.
Holy shit.
Like literally right as I was about to go on, and he was like, unplug them. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, there's no music on or anything. So I was just like, luckily I knew how to plug it back in, but he thought that I wouldn't know and then just be like, you know, and he was acting like he didn't understand what I was like, what are you doing? Like, I see what you're doing. You're trying to f up my thing.
That's crazy.
I've had guys unplug the main speakers before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just to make me look bad. Yeah. It's. No.
Well, that answers my question of DJ beef. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've always wondered, like, I know rappers have a lot of rapper beef, but DJs, what does DJ beef look like? But you just explained it right there. Like, that's some ugly shit. Like, when it comes to.
It's not usually the bigger DJs don't do stuff like that, but they do talk shit against each other. Like, they'll say like, oh, that person doesn't make their own music, or I guess that could be the same as like that rapper doesn't write their own rhymes, you know? Just
Yeah.
talking like I've had guys be like, yeah, I like banged her, and like just making stuff up, you know.
That's crazy.
I think there's a lot of jealousy for sure in EDM land. Definitely.
That sounds mixy, like crazy. Like, you know what? That's like an eye opener to me because, like you said, like rappers have the ability to vocalize their beef. So like you could literally be like, F this guy on your track. But you guys are not speaking, you know what I mean? Unless you're like one of the DJs who, you know, MC at the same time, then you can be like, you know, shout out to all Masaban crew and, you know, F those guys on the other side, you know what I mean? But like, you can't like, unless you have a record of somebody dissing the DJ, you can only just talk shit about them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, people sometimes like, you'll see producers like copying you or like, you know, stealing an idea or whatever. But yeah, again, you can't really say anything unless you have a friend that's rapping and you tell them to do it. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Also, even with this male-dominated industry, right? Can you give us some of the obstacles that you have faced? You know, other than some of the ones you've already mentioned, like some of the obstacles that you faced as a woman in this industry.
I think like in the beginning, for example, I definitely had a few strange moments. Like I've had the few club owners like threaten me with stuff, you know. This whole Me Too thing coming out now, I'm like, oh man, I can relate to so many people's stories. Like there's even some people out now that are getting like I can attest to that. I don't want to get involved in that myself because sometimes I think I will or I'll say something, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't want to be that person. Like it's just not my vibe. But there's definitely been people that have abused their power, let's put it that way. Or, you know, they hire you and then, or, you know, say they're going to help you do something. And then they'll kind of be like, well, by the way, unless you do this, then, you know, I can ruin your career. Or so they'll do something and help you and then kind of like use it against you later. So, I mean, if a guy like just came out of the woodwork like that, I'd be like, F you. But then if you actually have a job because of something and then you're like depending on it and then they're giving you these like ultimatums, then that's when it gets uncomfortable. And that's why a lot of these women that come out talking about it, I'm like, I can totally understand why you would be pressured into doing something, because if you're, you know, people just say, why don't you just say no, or why don't you just tell somebody? But it's not so cut and dry like that. Sometimes it's like, you know, do I want to just do it and use him basically and, you know, get him out of the way and then get myself bigger, or do I, you know, just tell him to fuck off? And then the problem is there's so many guys like that at some point, sometimes you're just like, I mean, I haven't personally done anything with anybody because I think I was lucky enough to have enough people believe in me that we're not, you know,
slimy
like that. That's why we need more women in charge of this stuff, like more women owning, you know, clubs and venues and stuff like that. So it is a lot of men that you have to deal with. So well, I've even had guys ask me like, what, are you like gay or something? Is that why you're not like, you know, flirting with me? And I'm like, first of all, it's none of your business. And then, yeah.
That must be really annoying though, because like it's harder to get validated for your skills. You know what I'm saying? Like,
when I first started DJing, like in New York, I used to kind of like wear baseball hats and like hoodies and stuff. So I kind of made it a point to cover up so that I knew if people actually liked what I was doing or they just wanted to like, you know, I don't think people go out and watch somebody if they're a shitty artist just because they're half naked. Like, I mean, maybe, but there was also so many girl DJs at the time that would wear like nothing or just have like their boobs out and like no, like topless DJs and like model DJs. Like there was an agency in Brooklyn that was like, models, but who were DJs, but they didn't really know how to DJ, so they were just doing it because it was cool at the time. It's just like, it was like insulting to me almost. And then of course I did model, so I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be like stuck in this kind of like category, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. There's definitely pressure. I think not just for DJs, but I think for all females, like female rappers and stuff, to be overly sexual. And like, I mean, all of the biggest female rappers right now are like naked, like all the time. And I mean, I'm like, whatever makes you happy. Like, if you want to be naked, be naked. But at the same time, it kind of, I'd like to see a few more that are like, you know, just themselves. Like, I don't know if somebody like Nicki Minaj wants to always be like that. Does she really? Like, I just can't picture it, you know, like that, a constant like eyelashes and stuff. I'm like, but she's really talented. So, you know,
it's
whatever works for you.
Again, another double-edged sword, right? Like, I'm sure she doesn't want to do that all the time, and there's a lot of work into like the glam squad of looking like that all the time. But like, if she doesn't, and then she puts out a video not looking Nicki Minaj-esque, is it gonna get as much views as, you know what I mean?
I think she should do it. I think that would be like super cool. And I mean, even right now, I think it's a new trend's coming with women being more natural, because it went so crazy the other direction with like Kim Kardashian and all that stuff, that I see a lot more of that kind of like younger crowd being more natural. There is definitely like a growing group there, like Billie Eilish and that kind of thing. Like, you know, girls who are not getting surgery all over and half naked the whole time. So I think I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I think I like being feminine, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I kind of want to be sexy today, but other times I'm like, I just I don't care, like I want to wear sweatpants.
For all the people that you've met, because like you have collabs with Shaggy, you know, you mentioned Lil Jon, like like a ridiculous amounts of people who are like famous. Have you ever fanned out? Like,
fanned out
shit.
myself.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting this person.
Oh yeah, Wyclef. That was I wrote a song with him. It's not actually my song, but I wrote it for him and Showtek and Starly. So I was in the studio with him working, and he was like, "Oh my, I love that guy so much." I was like so nervous, and he was just so amazing. He was just like, I love women. I trust women's opinion. Like, women know what's up. Like, what do you think? Like, the whole time, just like, you know. Cardinal also. My first time in the studio with him was in LA a few years ago. I think that was like 2016. And he came in the studio, and I was just like, as a kid, like I just loved him. Like, the whole Northern Touch thing. Like, I thought he was the best. And now we're friends. Like, we do have a track together, but we haven't released it yet. And I mean, he's still doing music, of course, but he's also very involved in like, you know, social stuff. And I feel like he's kind of doing a lot of stuff. Like, he's also working for Universal, I believe, with like A&Ring. And then helping artists and stuff like that. So he came and did a cameo in my last music video. Well, 3 videos ago. So.
No, shout out to Cardinal. That's We Love Hip Hop alumni. You know what I mean? We have a very extensive interview with him where we went from like the beginning to now what he's doing. Cool. So check that out on our channel. You know what I mean?
I will.
Yeah.
I think the other one is Sean Paul, actually.
Sean Paul.
It was such a weird story because when somebody who worked at Hakkasan actually introduced me to one of his friends. So I had just landed in New York from somewhere else, and I'd sent him like a beat. And so we were Skyping, and we were just talking about the song, and he was in the studio. So he's like, so where are you right now? I was like, oh, I just landed in New York. He's like, I'm in New York. I'm like, what? You're in a studio in New York and I'm not there, and you're recording on my song? So I was just like, okay. And it was only 3 blocks from my place. Nice. So I went over and like, we recorded the song. Nice. But I was pretty nervous for that too, because like Sean Paul growing up was, you know, one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, Sean Paul's the guy. He's the,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Mr. Dotty, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I always thought he was like from Toronto or something, or because he did so much stuff in Toronto.
Well, I did a little piece on him not too long ago, or not on him, but like on the scene. And one of his first pieces of exposure was in Toronto from that song Money Jane back in the days with Cardinal and Judy Black, right? That was like the first time the world got a chance to see what Sean Paul looked like. A lot of people didn't know that though, right? Like people heard him on tracks in Jamaica and stuff like that, but like the first music video you got to see him on was a Toronto product.
I think, it makes sense too that it would be big in Canada before the US as well.
Yeah.
Because of like how many people from the islands in Toronto and stuff, like the huge, that's like all growing up, all I heard that kind of music, like in all the clubs, like everywhere, you know?
Oh yeah, we love some reggae.
So that's probably why.
Yeah. And even like to stay on the Toronto scene for a quick second.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of hip hop collabos and stuff with Canadian artists and stuff like that. Like, you know, guys from Ottawa and Montreal as well as Toronto. Who are you checking for? I guess we could do two categories. Toronto and then Canada full out.
Like, okay, Claremont the second. That's his name, right? Claremont. Yeah, I just found him. I just found him like not that long ago, and I'm like, why have I not heard of this guy?
Yeah,
this guy is unbelievable. Like, I think he could be really huge. And I'm not in touch with him yet, so he's somebody that I really like to work with. Yeah, I mean, Nate Husser was actually City Fidelia introduced me to Nate Husser.
Shout out City Fidelia.
And Nate and I have so many songs. It's somebody I've been working with a lot. Dylan Ponders as well. We like, as soon as we met, we were like, are we related? Like, we just clicked like completely. So we keep joking now that I'm his sister. And like Chris the Spirit, he's great. We're working on, I'm actually looking to put out his album on my label. So I'm kind of like working on production for him. And I think we're going to actually do a collaboration album as well.
Nice.
He's somebody that I think is super talented too. And I feel like there's so many people I didn't know about. Like, now that I'm really delving into it, I'm like, there's this whole scene here of like incredible talent that like I didn't know about until recently. I think just because I've been gone so much in other places and, you know, doing so many different styles of music that I think I kind of lost touch with like what's happening here. But I mean, like Pressa, I have a song with him.
Dope.
Yeah, there's like, trying to think of somebody else.
You got a song with Swagger Right as well.
I'ma call me some more, bro. I'll show you how to have voice up one phone call. Lean at the plug, I just bought me a porn star. My bitch expensive.
That's a big
yeah. I actually met him through Troy, who's his manager. And he's friends with Cardinal, so I think I connected through Cardinal as well.
Dope.
Yeah, Swagger Right's amazing. He's super dope. But I would like to start signing Toronto talent under my label, and like develop their songs, like help them with production and that kind of thing. Because I mean, a lot of people have their own producer, but I still think it's important to like work with different producers, and especially when you're newer, and kind of find your voice and experiment a little bit.
Yeah, and you're a producer with a name, right? I feel like you got to understand, even though it's the EDM stuff, when you've established millions of views under anything that you've done, any piece of content, it puts you onto a different stratosphere. You know what I'm saying? And you've been able to collaborate with some of the biggest stars in the world. So what you're saying right now, it's not you would like to do because you're announcing it on a public platform. And we have mad Canadian rappers who, you know, we talk about, so we tag them so they're tuned in, right? Nice. So from this, you'll probably get some people who hit you up like, hey, we want to sign up. Right? What's the name of the label?
It's called Mad Fatty, MADFATTI. So so far it's just been my songs that I'm involved in with my name on it, but we're also starting to look at doing other people's songs. And maybe like I don't have to produce it. Like if they have somebody as a producer, then, you know, if it sounds good, then perfect, less work for me. But you know, I like to work with people that I think have potential, and you know, I'd like to start signing more stuff for sure.
Yeah, and
Need more of a team now, though. I need some assistants and some crew to help.
we'll talk behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm a man of many traits, and even with the artists out there, if you're looking to sign to Fatty Records, right? Or is it Fatty Entertainment? Just to let the people know.
Mad Fatty, just Mad Fatty.
Okay, so if you're looking to sign to Mad Fatty, you also might get some G-Force collabo clothing as well.
Oh, nice.
So let's talk about that.
What G-Star you mean?
G-Star. I put.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
I researched G-Star, and then my dyslexic brain wrote down G-Force, but G-Star.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Actually, well, the G-Star stuff was like, we're finished that, but I am actually starting a new clothing line, which will just be me, like no collaborations.
Okay.
I'm kind of just starting it now, so I have a name in mind, but I don't want to say it till it's like for sure. But I'm gonna start with probably some like smaller items first, and some Halo products, which is like basically like really out of this world items. I want to do something like really weird with the line, so it's not really like merch. It's more like just a straight fashion brand. So I'm gonna be doing that because I've had a lot of people reach out to me and be like, I can't get those G-Star glasses anymore. But those, like, we had like Pharrell wearing them, and like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Shaggy and stuff. So like once you get those guys wearing them, like they just sell out like in 1 second.
Yeah.
So we don't have any more of those. I have like 3 pairs, but I'll give it to Drake. I'll give one to Drake maybe.
Yo, Drizzy, you know what I mean? Y'all gotta link up so that you can get those G-Star glasses over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Drake is.
You guys have never met?
No.
I'm surprised.
No. I know.
Wow.
I know.
Well, maybe he'll check this out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd love to do some songs for Drake. I think I could do something cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
With everything going on, and my last couple questions I have for you, right? Actually, let me go in one quick direction over here to the left, not too far. Okay.
Just a little bit.
How is it as a woman in the public eye, right? Because you know you've been in a lot of different public scenes, and you're I don't want to say, I hate saying superstar or star, right? But you're famous, right?
I mean, I don't know about that, but
You're, let's say, known. Is it more difficult?
yeah, by some people, yeah.
How is it navigating relationships as a person who's known?
Yeah, I mean, I've dated a few. I am straight, first of all. Let's just say that, because I don't know why. There's been like this thing, like people think I'm gay, which is fine. I don't really care. But
Right.
I love women. Women are sexy. I can be attracted to women, but I am straight. So the guys that I've dated have mostly been kind of also like in the public eye. So I usually, I feel like until I'm like married or like pregnant or something, that I kind of like to keep it quiet.
Keep it private. Yeah.
It's not really my personality to like use somebody to be more popular. And I feel like a lot of people do that. Like, you know, they will date somebody just to get to the next level, which is fine, but it's just not my personality really. I also don't like people talking shit. So I have dated a couple DJs and a couple athletes. And it's really hard to have people not know about it, for sure. It's like, and it's just not that, it makes it like stressful.
Yeah.
Especially if I, like when I was DJing pre-COVID, like traveling a lot, the amount of times you can actually see somebody is really difficult. Like it's just, you know, everybody's so busy. And I dated a hockey player for a bit, and he was kind of like, it was like I couldn't really see him during season, and then off season he would just want to like party the whole time, and I'm like, I have to work still. Like, you know, I'm a DJ, but that doesn't mean I'm partying the whole time. Like I don't do drugs, I don't, you know, do that kind of stuff. So it's, you know, I find some people want to date me because they think I'm like this crazy, like nightlife person, and they want to
party
like,
girl.
let's go to Vegas and like, yeah. And I'm like the furthest from that. I'm like always on the computer, always working. And any of these rappers that I work with know my personality.
Right.
They know that I'm not like that. I think Dylan got me a little lit in the studio the other day. We were like, I don't know what we're drinking. I think it was Henny or something, but I was like, man, I can't focus anymore. Like,
so what?
But
you don't smoke weed, or you don't partake in
dabble.
chemies or anything like that?
I smoke a little bit, but it makes me a little tired, and I don't know, I get stuffy and that kind of thing. I like the smell of it, and I like it, but it's not something I'm doing all the time.
Yeah.
I like, my thing is red wine. So if I want to relax, or sometimes when I'm working or painting, I just like pour some like a nice Beaujolais.
Yeah.
Get down with it.
Has like in a relationship, has anybody ever tried to come to your workplace while you're working and just try to hang out while you're DJing and just mess up your flow?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had some guys that I'm dating come to my shows and just get totally like belligerent. And I'm like, oh man, now I have to take care of you and my job. Like, it's
crazy.
Yeah. Because I have definitely gotten really drunk DJing, mostly in the early days, like when I first started, because you're kind of caught up in it.
Yeah.
But if you're touring and you're flying every day, like you really can't. Like I'm like 115 pounds. Like if I drink that much, I'm going to be on the floor.
Yeah.
So Tiesto actually got me really drunk one night, and I missed my next show. I missed my flight, and I was just like, I couldn't get out of bed till like 9 p.m. the next day, and that was horrible. So
I want to hear about this, the X incident, going into the club and getting smashed. What happened?
We're getting into it now.
Then what happened in that incident?
Actually, the one thing I was thinking about was there's this guy that I was dating, and this sounds really bad, but I stopped dating him, and I was dating this other guy, and they had become friends, but I don't think they knew that the situation. So they came in together in the DJ booth, but like I think the newer one was kind of oblivious that I had dated the other one yet. Maybe they know now, but they were just really drunk, and I was like, oh my God, I hope no like information gets out here.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly I think when guys I've dated get drunk, they get really insecure. So I think like they think I'm like checking out a dude, or like, I don't know, there's some guy in the backstage or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they think I'm like with another DJ or something. Like I have a show with Calvin Harris or something, and they're like insecure about it.
Crazy.
I had one that his ex was like flirting with Calvin Harris or something like that. And then he was like, I hate that guy. Like you shouldn't hang out with him and that kind of thing. I was just like,
so nothing crazy, like no bottles flying, no crazy incidents like that. Cause like the EDM world people can get kind of fucked up in that world. Like not kind of, like hella fucked up.
I mean, I think most people in EDM, they're on like MDMA or something, like at the festivals, so they're more like zoned out. But I have seen some stuff get aggressive with like mosh pits and stuff.
Yeah.
That has happened, but I haven't had like an ex in that situation. I've been DJing places where there's been like bottle fights and stuff that I had to like run or like hide behind the booth because people were like throwing like magnums and stuff.
Yeah.
That was in Toronto actually, but
Toronto.
I haven't had an ex like really go crazy, no.
Well, even with that, like, what's the most craziest incident that you've been DJing? Like, you're DJing at the club and you're like, oh my God, like this is happening in front of you right now.
Well, it's not violent, but one time I was DJing in Vegas and there was a couple having sex like on the dance floor.
Whoa.
Like fully. And I think I was DJing with these guys, Ryan and Sunnery, like pretty big EDM DJs. Actually, Sunnery's with Doutzen, the Victoria's Secret model. It's her husband.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard of them, but we were doing a show in Vegas and we were like, and I think I even tweeted later, like to the couple that was like having sex, like I want your kid to be named after me.
That's crazy. crazy.
That was pretty shocking. I actually DJ'd a weird sex party once as well, back in the day. Somebody told me that it was like a swingers thing, and then it was in a club though, and I got there and it was like they were paying me a lot, so I just shut my eyes and was like, whatever, do your thing. But there's weird stuff happening in the corners and stuff. They weren't like right in the DJ booth or anything, so it was like an actual venue. It wasn't like a house or something like that. But
Yeah.
That was really strange.
About how many people?
I think there's probably like 150, maybe.
Okay.
Not all together at once, but like different groups of people like around the house, the place. Yeah, that was weird. I mean, I've seen stages collapse and stuff as well. At Digital Dreams in Toronto, there was an insane storm one day, and the whole lighting thing was kind of like flying like this and almost coming down, so we had to like hide out of the way from that. That was pretty scary. Some storms are scary, being outdoor DJing there.
Wow.
Happened a few times. Yeah, a lot of electrical gear you don't want to be near, right?
Yeah, you start seeing like wires popping out, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, am I gonna survive up here? No. So like in closing, like we're in this time right now, we're living in a pandemic, right? And your occupation, as far as like, you know, the DJing part of it, at least, you know, it entails you being in front of crowds. So how is that going to work right now with you?
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's not going to be a lot of shows happening for at least another year or something like that, like really to the same level. I mean, in Europe, it looks like it's getting a bit better. Canada's getting a bit better.
Right.
But I think it's important right now because not only that, but also like climate change and stuff. Like I think there's a lot of crazy stuff happening now, and so much violence, and you know, even the gun situation in Toronto is getting worse.
Yes.
It just seems like things are a little crazy right now. So it's definitely something that like worries me. And that's why I kind of focus mostly on production right now and music production, because you know, if you're doing a lot of top line writing and music writing, you can, especially if you're working for a bigger artist, you can kind of make a living that way, or by doing remixes and stuff. But yeah, right now it's harder because nobody wants to pay for anything right now. So you get like, you know, everyone's being a little frugal because everyone's a little scared.
Yeah.
I started this clothing line, so hopefully that'll be like another thing. I've always been somebody to kind of like hustle around, just do, you know, a bunch of things and see what happens. I'm also doing some stuff with some films. I'm a music advisor, I guess you call it, for this horror movie that's coming out soon.
Okay.
So basically I part own the movie, so we're like looking to sell it to like a movie festival. There's also a problem because there's no festivals going on, so it's all digital. But things like that, like maybe
can we get
writing.
the name for that movie, or are we allowed
it's called Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, I think you it's fine if you know that now because they were posting it earlier. But so I produced a couple of songs like for the movie and that kind of thing. So just, I mean, if you know how to produce, then you can kind of, there's a lot of things that you can make money with by doing it. People are always going to need music. So that's never going to go away. So I kind of just thinking of new ways. But that is definitely something that I'm thinking about, like how, because doing these live DJ sets and stuff, you know, like it's not really the same as as being there live. So if you have any ideas, then let me know.
Hey, they call me Ricky Dred, aka Full of Ideas. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go.
Or I called myself that now, so don't worry.
Oh, okay. I was like, that sounds like a weird name, but
I said it publicly, so it is what it is now. If it's on the internet, then it must be true. That's my motto.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the way it is today, anyways.
Exactly. Listen, Eva, I really, really appreciate this. Like, I feel like we got a lot of information. Through my research, when I was looking through the different like video interviews that I can find besides articles, I felt like they were really good content pieces, but they were short.
Yeah.
Right?
That's EDM world, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like as you progress in the game and for all the stuff that you've already done, there needs to be something like this where people can catch the full history, and I feel that this is what we got today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thanks for having me too, because I've sometimes I feel like, you know, since I've always said like, you know, I don't pay attention to genres too much, but the fact is there's definitely groups, there's like blogs, and there's, you know, YouTube accounts, and there's stuff of people like, you know, each other in different genres. So sometimes I've always felt like, you know, I have to choose one or the other, but I'm happy that you are open to like talking to me too, like not coming from just a hip hop background and kind of like somebody who's, you know, has a different background.
Well, I've been around the scene. I've been around like the house music scene for a long time, maybe a little bit further back, like late 90s, early 2000s. You know, I used to be in the Comfort Zone on Sundays and all these different places. Cool. So I be knowing about some house music, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Nice.
And I can go to a jam where like they play like zero hip hop and still enjoy the whole night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I've actually, sorry.
No, go.
I found that a lot, that I think people that are fans of hip hop also like other kinds of music. Like real EDM heads, a lot of times they don't go outside of that. Yeah. But I mean, I've been playing hip hop in my EDM sets. I've been playing like all kinds of music in my EDM sets. So I'm trying to bridge the worlds together because I think it's not that different, really.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely digging the music, the new stuff that you've dropped. You know what I mean? I like that song Bop. The bars are crazy on it, and as soon as that beat comes in, I'm like, whoa. So
yeah,
you know what I mean. And
I'm gonna do a few more like really hard things like that. I like that kind of stuff too. So
yeah. And even with that, like last couple of things, like who is doing the direction for the videos? Is that your ideas for the videos, or are you getting with directors to come with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really involved in my videos. The last two for Bop and Splash God, I mean, they were definitely my idea. I was like kind of getting everybody together. Right. I have a really great editor, Allison. Shout out. Shout out, Allison. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to just do a quarantine style, like just film yourselves, like more content, just get it out there. I have these such crazy ideas, and I wish I had crazy budgets because, you know, I think it'll keep building. I'm like, my brain keeps going like when I think of ideas, and sometimes there's things I want to do, but like I can't because it's too crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I think I've been directing. I directed the Wyclef video as well, the one that I wrote with him. Dope. And I'm not in that. I just put it together. Yeah. So I'm like a visual person too. So like when I make a song, I'm also thinking about the visual aspects. It goes together to me. So yeah, I like working with people that are like that too. Somebody like Dylan is also very visual, and it's fun. Like it's another way to be creative.
Yeah, dope.
Yeah.
Well, give the people your social medias. Let the people know where they can find you, whether it's music-wise or like any of the social media platforms.
Well, everything is at Eva Shaw except for my YouTube. That's at Eva Shaw Official, I believe. I'm like, wait, what is it? Yeah. So at Eva Shaw, everything's connected. So my SoundCloud, Instagram, everything like that. And of course, Spotify, Eva Shaw, I'm on there. Some things you might not know about that I've written or produced that my name's not on, but that you'll find somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do your Googles. You know what I mean? Do your Googles, kids. Like,
yeah.
When you get on YouTube or any of those platforms, just look for that little Abby that has the white background with the red mask over the face. So it's like a cartoon picture.
Yeah. My little logo there. Yeah, I'm drowning in the water or blood or whatever it is. I don't know what that is.
I thought that was a red mask.
No, I'm drowning. But it could be a mask, yeah.
No, I got to look at it a little bit closer, but that's a sick concept.
I have like a bun on my head, yeah, and I'm drowning.
Yeah. It looks like a Japanese style type of picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So once again, thank you for doing this with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You know what I mean? So another 6 views I want to apologize to my people out there who I haven't done one of these in a long time. You know what I mean? I want to thank Eva Shaw for doing this with me. Once again, look out for her music. Look out for her on production of a lot of dope hip hop coming forward. And then look out for all her stuff from before. Make sure to subscribe to our page as usual. Smash that like button, all that YouTuber stuff. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, man. We out. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.